Welcome to the No Grow Go podcast. I'm Matt Jordan. I'm the senior pastor here at First Methodist Church Enterprise, and it's been a minute since we've been with you. We are so thankful both for your patience and your grace, and I'm also thankful for so many of you that have asked, when's the next episode coming out? When's the next episode coming out? I'm telling you, we're working on a special guest to come and share his story, and that's in the works. But we've also just had a lot going on. We've had people traveling. We've had some things come up that couldn't be avoided, and so it's been a busy time. And the easy answer is just life. But one thing our church has been doing over the past few weeks, really, we've been doing a Wednesday night series called Practicing the Way, we just finished. And a couple weeks ago, October the 15th, we started our first session of Practice with Prayer. And it's a 4-week study on talking to God, talking with God, listening to God, and being with God. And how we do this through prayer. And my hope in prayer really is that this prepares us for Advent to be really intentional as we begin that season, looking deep into Isaiah and looking into the prophecy of the coming Messiah, so that we have a clear understanding from the whole biblical narrative on what it means for Jesus to come to us and what it means for us to wait in Advent with that anticipated hope for his return. Something else our church has been working on is the First Responder Rest Stop. And if you've donated to that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much, whether it be cards, whether it be a monetary donation, whether it be supplies like a coffee maker or a scripture to put in there, or snacks and chips and water bottles and Red Bull and all the things and K-Cups and everything. Thank you. Just thank you so much. We are opening that spot up. We actually have a ribbon cutting on the 28th of October at 10 a.m. That we are super excited for, to really open it up and show the community all that we are doing at First Methodist Church through the Rest Stop. When you think about first responders, they are people who give so much to all of us. They put their life on the line every single day, from firefighters to EMS, to those that are police and sheriff's deputies, members of ALEA, like the troopers and the SBI and those sorts of things. Every single day, they don't know what they're going to face. I've had the pleasure of going on just a couple of ride-alongs, and I always get excited when a call comes in on the radio, mainly because I haven't memorized the 10-code system yet, and so I'm waiting to be told where we're going to go. And it sounds like something really cool, and we end up, we're going to help somebody, get out of their house, or sometimes a call will come up and we'll rush to a scene and it is something serious. And so when you understand the life of a first responder, the greatest way to understand this is when you think about critical incidences, meaning high stress scenarios where the stress in your body raises up high and stays there and then drops down after a while. Most humans experience 5 to 6 of those, okay? And this isn't like roller coasters and things. This is moments where you may be in an aggressive fight, or moments where you may be trying to protect yourself and your family from safety, moments where you think about any type of combat, moments where you think of something that is putting yourself at risk, fighting a fire, those sorts of things, going really fast on the road, rushing from one scene to another. The average human experience is 5 to 6 in a lifetime. The average first responder, especially law enforcement, experiences 600 to 800 of those in just a 20-year career. And that's on an average. So that's not skewed for those that are in areas like Bessemer, Alabama, or Pritchard, or areas that are extremely dangerous and high violent crime rates. That's the average critical incidences that a first responder will respond to, those high stress moments, 600 to 800. It's insane to me what they put their lives through for our safety and our protection. And so this is just a way for our church to give back. This past week, we went ahead and opened it up. We got everything out. We got the snacks out. We got the signs hung. We're ready to rock and roll. And I've told all the first responders that I know, hey, it's open. It's ready for you to use. Use it at your will and however it's needed. and just make sure that it is ready to go. And so we're hoping that they can use it even before the ribbon cutting officially. But the ribbon cutting is on the 28th of October at 10 a.m. We hope that you all come and join us just to see this space, and if nothing else, to thank the first responders who are going to be there. That you could just say thank you for what they've done. But what I want to talk about today is specifically an avenue of prayer and an avenue of spiritual practice that I think is so significant. One that I don't practice enough, but it's so rewarding every time I do, and that's the practice of silence. And silence can often be something that's uncomfortable for many of us. Silence is something that it took me a long time to understand. When I was a young boy, my dad and I, we always loved, or I always loved, and I assume he did too, but we would hop in his truck, and the only music we ever listened to in my dad's truck was classic rock music. That was it. We listened to the Doobie Brothers, Leonard Skinner, AC/DC, you name it, right? We listened to all the classic rock, all the Southern rock, every bit of that. And if we weren't listening to that, we were listening to Jerry Clower, or we were listening to John Boy and Billy. And that was life in my dad's truck. But when I was getting a little older as a boy, I would hop in this truck after work, and I would pull it down to the driveway for us to go for a drive. Or he would. I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and he was teaching me how to back up to the boat and hook it up and all those sorts of things. And I hop in it and turn it on, and it was just silent. Every time that I was in the car, we had it jamming in there, but it was just silent. And I thought it was the weirdest thing. I always asked him, I said, Dad, why are you riding around in silence? Now, why don't you have the radio on or nothing? And he would always say, sometimes silence is a good thing. And as I've gotten older, there are moments where I catch myself driving down Bow Weevil Circle, and I think, I am becoming just like my dad. The radio's not on. There's no podcast going. It's just silence. Sometimes silence is what we crave and what we need, because we have so much noise and things in our life and our world that we just need something to think clear through, to have some clarity. But spiritually, silence is something that's significant as well, because silence is a moment that we can deal with the old man or the flesh of our life, the sinfulness of our lives. Because in the noise of the world, it distracts us. The noise of the world is a way for us to get a dopamine kick. It's a way for us to be distracted. It's a way for us to avoid things. We continue to fill our life with one thing after another and more noise all around us, then we don't have to take time to think about the things that we've done, or to think about the things we've struggled with, or to think about the sin that we're wrestling with, or to think about the avoidance of that sin. It forces us to have to deal with these things in our life that otherwise we wouldn't, when we can get away from the noise and step into an avenue of silence. Silence is also important because in the silence is often where we hear God speak the loudest, whether it's in the silence of the way we read and meditate the scriptures, or in the silence that we can actually hear the Lord speak to us through the Spirit in our mind and in our hearts. But when we sit down in the silence, we really can listen better. But more than listening, that silence also helps us to reflect. And silence itself, it has a lot of power. And it's not just the silence of sitting down with no music going and no TV going. It's also the silence of taking away distractions. So silence at times, sometimes you may see me out in a coffee shop somewhere like Panera Bread or the Coffee Corner or the Daily Bread, and I'll be sitting down and I will be getting ready to write a sermon or work on my newsletter or whatever it may be. And it's some of that I'm out in the coffee shop, and it's so funny and strange. If you're in your office, somebody's going to come by and talk to you, which I love. I always have my door open unless I'm on a Zoom call or something. But in a public space like a coffee shop, very rarely does somebody ever come up and talk to you. They just assume you're there working or doing whatever. So it's kind of funny to see the dichotomy. But sitting in that coffee shop while working on a sermon or anything like that, that's not silence. That's not true silence, because I'm distracted by the people around me. I'm distracted by the coffee maker going off, or the espresso machine warming up, or a drink getting mixed at the coffee bar, or someone getting up and down to go to the restroom, or seeing somebody come in and out of the door. And you almost become a little bit more hyper vigilant, even if you're not normally someone who is, when you're in a public space of that nature. So that's not true silence. The true silence isn't sitting somewhere like that to experience the silence and hear the voice of the Lord. When I lived back home in Arab, there was a place in Gunnersville called the Gunnersville State Park. It was beautiful. And after the 2011 tornadoes, it was still pretty, but it lost a lot of its hardiness and its character through the damage of the tornadoes. But there was a spot right across the street from the golf course parking lot, and I would go every day after school. And that was back when I didn't pay for my own gas, and I thought Mom and Daddy had unlimited money. And I would drive up the mountain. I'd park over there. I'd hop out of the truck. Sometimes I'd take my Bible. Sometimes I wouldn't. And this was my senior year of school and my freshman year of college, sophomore year of college. I would do a lot of this. And I would go and just sit on this bench, and it was an overlook. And you could see where Signal Point comes out, where Town Creek meets in. You could see the campground down below you. You could see all of one of the greater sections of Gunnersville Lake. It was gorgeous, especially this time of year when the leaves begin changing colors. And I would just sit in silence. I would just sit and listen. And it probably would take me about 45 minutes to really experience silence. The first 5 minutes you're sitting there and you're just like, man, this sight never gets old. This is gorgeous. This is pretty. Then you sit there and you think, oh, I'm shifting in my chair a little bit. I'm getting a little bit sore. And it's a wood bench. And then another few minutes you're sitting there and you're just thinking about all the daydreaming things you can in the world. And then after that first 15 minutes or so, you really can sit in and breathe and listen, and that noise and distraction can go away from you. And a lot of times, especially during the school year, people weren't coming by there and those sorts of things, so I had it all to myself. But that practice of silence is so refreshing. It is something that is a beautiful gift. It really is. There were times when I'm gonna tell you a little bit about your pastor. When I was in high school and in college, I had a neighbor of ours who owned some property a couple miles from the house with a big pond on it. And he would let me and my buddies go frog gigging. And so we would go out there now. We'd drive our trucks out and park in the field. And it was mainly my truck. My buddy had a little Nissan Frontier that would get stuck in wet grass if he wasn't careful. And we would drive out there and we would frog gig for a couple hours. And then we would just sit there in the field. There was no street lights, nothing. And you could look up and see all the stars in the world. And we would just sit in that silence. When you think about silence, it is a beautiful gift for us, not just to embrace God's creation. That's a part of it, but you can experience that silence at your table, in your living room. You can experience it in your car. You can experience it in your prayer closet. You can experience it anywhere in your life if you make intentional time for it. And there's great power in it, because in that silence, you can reflect as well on your spiritual life. You can deal with what St. John of the Cross would call the old man, which is the greatest enemy of all, that fleshly side of us that we continue to fight, that side of us that is continually tempted, that side of us that ever seems so strong within our life. And we can confront it and combat it in the silence. And we can listen to the things around us clearly and in a way that we haven't heard them before. There's a tool used oftentimes in psychology called Johari's window. And Johari's window is this 4-pane glass window. And one pane is everything that I know and everything that you know about a person, about me. The second window is everything I know that you don't know. The third window is everything that you know that I don't know. And the fourth window is the unknown. And it's a beautiful way for us to understand both the purpose of conflict resolution, right? Because there's things that we just don't always know about one another, that we need to take time to learn and take time to listen of what others may know or see about us that we don't know. And in the unknown, it's the same. It's a scary place. And in the silence, we can go through that window of our soul, and we can look and see, and we can deal with hidden sin. We can deal with hidden struggles. We could think back through previous conversations and say, I really was pretty standoffish and I really shouldn't have been. And we can really reflect and take that time to look back on our life and say, I did not live for the glory of God in this moment today. I really lived for myself. I made this decision based on my selfish needs. And it's healthy to reflect and go back and look on your life in those ways. Because the tendency of the world is to say that the past is the past, let's move forward. and let's click on some music. Let's get back to the grind. Let's not take acknowledgement to heal and to rest. Let's not take time to reflect and regret decisions and those sorts of things. Let's just move forward. But silence forces us to deal with those things, not in a regretful sense and not in a resentful sense, but in a learning experience where we can deal with those things and say, I know what I need to do next time, and we can reflect and learn and listen. And that silence also has deep power for how we can hear the voice of the Lord, because in the noise of the world, it's hard to hear and it's hard to listen. Matter of fact, just at the Fall Fest, Perry Dillard and I had a conversation, and a couple of days afterwards, and we had a bit of a low sale on that day, and part of that had to do with a few factors. But we started talking about the positives, and we didn't see those positives on that moment. It was in reflection that we saw the positives, that there were more men helping with the Peanut Bowl this year than ever with any men's event that we've had, and different men from both services, present, working together, watching football, cooking peanuts, the whole 9 yards, all working together. And it was a beautiful sight to see. New members, old members, contemporary, traditional, all the things. And it's a positive that we would not have seen, that is probably a greater spiritual investment or spiritual earning than anything we could have made in a fundraiser. And that camaraderie that's built, that unity, is so significant and so important. And we don't need to miss those things. But if we just stay in the noise, we miss those blessings that God can give us in those moments. And the same is true for every facet of our life. If we just stay in the noise, we never know what it's like to take a rest and to be silent. It's those moments where, if you think back to the example that a gentleman uses in his book called Habitudes. I forgot his name now, but he uses pictures as examples to teach character traits, and he uses one called the starving baker. And he says, you close your eyes and you just imagine you walk in your office or your school or wherever it may be, and you just smell the most wonderful, amazing bagels and pastries ever in your life. You walk up to the desk and say, my goodness, I'm so glad you're here. And a nice, healthy woman steps out, and it's the baker making all of these things. And every day for weeks on end, you go in, you get your bagel and your coffee, smells delicious. And you notice the lady at the front begins to lose some weight and begins to almost dwindle down a little bit. And at first it looks intentional, and then it begins to look unhealthy. And you have some concern, and you walk in one day, and the bakery doesn't smell the way it used to. There's a closed sign on it. They're understaffed, and the baker is no longer there. She's no longer there because she's starved to death. She worked so hard that she forgot to take time to eat for herself. There's quite a bit of irony in it that a person who bakes for a living never took time to eat. And she did so much that she starved to death because she never took the time to feed herself. When you think spiritually about the same, even in our spiritual life, the more that we do and do and do, and the least time that we take to eat of God's word and to spend time in silence and to spend time with him, we're going to be like that starving baker spiritually. We're going to become like a drought in our soul. We're going to become hungry. We're going to become irritable. We're going to become restless. We're going to become some of those church people that are just kind of snobby and angry instead of loving and kind and gracious, because we're all about doing, but we haven't spent a lot of time being with Christ. So when we think about the power that silence gives us as well, even more so than listening and being able to reflect on our own soul, it also gives us a great sense of urgency in how we can grow in our own faith and our formation as well. And I just want to read this word to you. According to a gentleman named Dom Marcro, I did not take French in seminary or in high school or in college. A Benedictine monk of the Abbey of Salome, Plato has given us an excellent definition of music. It is, he says, art so ordering sounds as to reach the soul, inspiring a love of virtue. He would have the best music to be that which most perfectly expresses the soul's good qualities. It is to serve no idle pleasures, he says in another place, that the muses have given us harmony, whose movements accord with those of the soul, but rather to enable us thereby to order the ill-regulated motions of the soul, even as rhythm is given to reform our manners, which in most men are so wanting in balance and in grace. This was the high ideal which the Greeks had of music. The sentiments that emerge from a silent heart are expressed in harmony and silence. The great things in human life are experienced in silence under God's watchful eye. Silence is man's great freedom. No dictatorship, no war, no barbarianism can take this divine treasury away from him. In listening to you, we understand that although silence may be the absence of speech, it is above all the attitude of someone who listens. To listen is to welcome the other into one's heart. Does Solomon not say in the first book of Kings, "Give me, Lord, a heart that listens"? He does not ask for riches of life or the life of his enemies or power, but a silent heart so as to listen to God. When we think of the greatest ways in which we can listen and the greatest power we can have in our spiritual formation, we will find it in the power of silence. If you're looking for a great resource to dig deeper into this power of silence to understand these things, I would encourage you to pick up a copy of The Power of Silence by Robert Cardinal Sarah. It's a phenomenal book. We actually have this in our School of Ministry for those that want to become licensed in our church for pastoral ministry or for any ministry. If they want to explore that licensing, we have a School of Ministry. This is one of those resources we require to read because it's such a powerful tool to understand really the power that is within silence. So may you spend time this week. If you've never spent time in silence, try to spend 5 to 10 minutes. If you have spent time in silence or 5 to 10 minutes is easy for you, try to go for 15 to 20. Take small steps and small increments to increase the time you spend in silence, and I will guarantee you that your soul and your life will benefit from it. And if you're overwhelmed and find yourself in a season of being overwhelmed, it is ever more important to prioritize a time of silence in those times of busyness so you don't get caught up in the noise of the world. May God be with you. Amen.